Mr. Jucho stood at the entrance to his chambers, watching as the morning mist enveloped the palace. The fog did not prevent his keen eyes from seeing a messenger pigeon flying straight toward him in the sky. When the bird finally landed on the windowsill, the Chancellor impatiently took the note from its paw and quickly ran his eyes over the lines. A satisfied grin appeared on his face. The news Shinny had given him wasn't just good, it was excellent. He had never realized that the monks of Daehyops were studying the mystery of the 8 jade beads in their secluded temple, the very beads that he was so excited about. Surprise was soon replaced by gloating. Shinny was finally useful, he thought, but his thoughts were interrupted by a servant announcing His Majesty's arrival in the south. Memories of the south surfaced in Jucho's mind: warm lands, fragrant flowers, serene landscapes. He laughed evilly, imagining how good it would be to do away with the young ruler there and take his place on the throne himself. Around Jucho's neck hung a necklace of mother-of-pearl beads, in the center of which shone a huge jade pearl, the source of his strength and power. Meanwhile, in another part of the kingdom, Jinbeek and his mentor Handan were crossing the desert. Their silhouettes were clearly visible against the yellow sand and clay hills. Jinbeek looked focused and tense. He was struggling to drag a huge stone behind him, which left a deep mark on the ground. Handan walked lightly, watching his disciples' efforts. Jinbeek had told his mentor several times that he was going to faint from fatigue, but Handan calmly replied that there were no easy paths in martial arts, only persistent repetition would lead to success. Jinbeek realized that there was logic in his teacher's words, and despite his exhaustion, he kept moving forward. He had nowhere to go back to. He entrusted his little sister to his friend's parents and made a firm decision to become stronger. Handan planned to meet Baipuchi in Namhasin and from there head to Enmunseong. Jinbeek didn't know the details of this plan, but he decided to stick to the route suggested by his mentor. The boy tried to remember how he knew the name Jucho. It was familiar, but no specific image surfaced in his mind. Then Handan explained to him that Jucho was the chancellor under the young ruler of the Han Kingdom, and it was he who had killed his previous master to take his place. Handan, looking off into the distance, continued his story as if remembering days long past. He explained to Jinbak that Jucho had not always been so cruel and embittered. The Chancellor had once been a loyal supporter of the old king, teaching and mentoring him, guiding him to the right path. In those days, his relations with those around him were good, and everyone saw him as a noble man. It was during that period that Handan enlisted and began his training in Suratso, the king's elite military unit. Everything changed on that fateful day when Jucho received an unknown bead. From that moment on, his power grew to overwhelming heights, and with it came change. The Chancellor began using an unknown technique that vaporized the old Jucho as if he never existed. From then on, a desire for absolute control manifested in Jucho. He began by exterminating the past ruler's inner circle, including Suratso's squad, to which Handan himself had once belonged. Now, looking back, the warrior realized that that bead was probably one of the divine jade pearls his mentor had told him about. Without that power, the Chancellor would not have been able to destroy such a powerful unit. Handong realized that the young king's position was extremely precarious right now. He was like a candle in the wind, exposed to danger on a daily basis. The warrior wished to end Jucho's intrigues, but in order to do so, he needed to reassemble Suratso's troop and thus revive the lost royal power. As Handan spoke, Jinbeek listened to him, but the boy's thoughts remained much more primitive. All he wanted to do at the moment was to throw this cursed stone right here in the desert and shake off its weight. Handan, noticing his disciple's condition, said that there were only 48 kilometers left to their destination. But this information didn't bring Jinbak any relief. The stone was too heavy, and the journey seemed endless. Jinbak, exhausted, collapsed to the ground, unable to move any further. He had worked his ass off dragging a huge block of stone across the hot desert, and he was sure he would never get up again. Han Dun, meanwhile, reported that they had finally arrived in Enmunseong. Jinbeek looked around in surprise and noticed that time had flown by unnoticed as he was fully focused on overcoming this arduous journey. When his gaze stopped at the crowded square ahead, the boy was struck by the grandeur and beauty of the city, which was far superior in size and grandeur to the one where he had first met Han Dun. Lying on the ground, Jinbeek suddenly noticed a hand reaching for him. He grabbed it without hesitation, thinking that his mentor had finally shown sympathy and decided to help him up. Without looking, he started to thank the man, but when he looked up, he was surprised to see that it wasn't Han Dun standing in front of him, but another man with a complacent expression. The stranger was inquiring with interest if the child was all right, and behind his back towered a huge bowl. Jinbeek was so exhausted that at first he didn't know how to react to this unexpected show of kindness. But when the man repeated his question, the boy nodded dumbfoundedly, not yet fully realizing what was happening. The mentor, watching the scene from a distance, raised an eyebrow slightly, realizing that their journey was taking a new turn. Jinbeek remembered Han Dun telling him that Enmunseong had always had a stable political situation, and that foreigners from the west were eager to settle here. But not a word had been said about the giant bulls that now caught his attention. Han Dong, noticing the confused expression on his disciple's face as he stared at the huge bull in amazement, grinned and said that he knew a place here where they would head to. Meanwhile, Mr. Yupio, the town governor of Enmunseong, was walking down the street, seated in an open tippet carried by 4 stout guards. The people around him cheered their head of state, and it was evident that they were on good terms with him. Lord Yupio waved cheerfully and nodded in return, showing his benevolence to his subjects. Han Dun was hungry and hurried to find a place to eat, but Jinbeek's curiosity wouldn't let him stay quiet in this busy place full of noise and events. The man with the bowl, who had offered to help Jinbeek earlier, stood at the edge of the road where the town leader's procession was traveling. One of the servants was carrying red bells that made unusual sounds. The bull, seeing the bells and hearing them ringing, reacted instantly to the stimulus. Giving in to his instincts, he rushed towards the man with the bells, ignoring his master's attempts to hold him back. The man was dumbfounded and did not understand what could provoke such aggression. The bull rushed forward, and the owner let go of the rope, unable to hold on to it. The bull, as if oblivious to the surroundings, raced straight at Mr. Yupio's turban, his face contorted with fear. At that moment, a mysterious man suddenly appeared in front of the enraged beast and fearlessly looked straight into the eyes of the bull. A blue glow began to flicker in his palms, and energy swirled around him. Concentrating, he enveloped the bull in a blue glow and stared intently into its eyes. Gradually, the animal's frantic gaze began to soften, and it stopped in front of the guy's outstretched palm. The energy began to dissipate, and Mr. Yupio was able to exhale with relief. The danger was over. The men focused their attention on Isaac, who accepted the praise and thanks with dignity. When he found the owner of the animal, he sternly reprimanded him for bringing the buffalo into such a crowded place, putting everyone in danger. Isaac's eyes were serious as he realized how tragic this could have been. Jinbeek watched in amazement as he realized that this was also a part of martial arts, but applied in a completely different way than he was used to seeing. In addition, the animal was unharmed, which particularly amazed him. Han Dun, watching the scene, wondered about Isaac's role in the town governor's entourage. He noticed that a good relationship existed between the two, which only heightened his interest. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave comments to help the new video come out as soon as possible. Have a great day.